Want awesome tabletop games delivered right to your door? Sign up now for Gamebox Monthly. Learn more at GameboxMonthly.com. Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Elaborates. As always, I am your host, Jake Lloyd. Thank you so much for tuning in, sticking with us. We're learning, we're growing, we're doing it together, and that's what matters. I am very happy to be sitting down this week with a dear friend of mine. She's incredibly talented, one of the hardest working women in show business as far as I'm concerned. She is an actress and a stunt woman. She's absolutely delightful. Her name is Alex Marshall-Brown. Hi, Alex.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I saw you jam into the theme song.
That theme song rocks.
Yeah, you're into it?
I am, truly.
The thing that I always tell people is that we wanted the theme to sort of really encompass who I am, so it starts really aggressive, and then it just turns into sort of this awkward wuss. Yeah.
No, it's not an awkward wuss. Like, it's just like real mellow and chill, smooth motherfucker.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Can I cuss? Is that okay?
Yeah, no, you
All
can
right.
fucking curse all you want. We're starting this one out nice. So, Alex, you are a stunt performer, an actress. You're a working machine.
I try to make sure that I don't have to work for other people.
Oh, is that how it goes?
Yeah, kind of. I'm Jamaican that way.
You're Jamaican that way. Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like everywhere I look, I see an Alex Marshall-Brown doing a thing. That's how I feel. I feel like whether it's like a spot you're doing here or you do a lot of stunt work, you do a lot of mocap for video games. Have you done mocap for any video games that I might have played?
Most of them are just still in post-production and haven't come out yet.
Oh.
Yeah. And so this is me playing the waiting. That's why you feel like you see everything that's happening with me.
Because it's on your social media?
It's because I'm waiting for footage to come out for things that I've done forever ago.
Right.
And it just so happens they all drop at the same time.
Right, of course. But that's good for you, right?
It's great for me. It makes
That's
me
good
look like
for
I'm fucking Titan and I'm just trying to live.
You are a Titan.
Thank you.
Speaking of which, you noticed right before we started recording that you haven't used your social media in like 6 months or like however long.
Since April 27th, apparently, according to my Instagram.
All right, so just a couple months.
It's been a minute.
Why?
Because I get tunnel vision for the things that I'm working on, and if like the goal is I'm going to improve my social media,
Right.
That's the tunnel vision that I have for a couple of months until I get distracted by something else that I'm zoning into.
Right. Do you not like to multitask? Are you like, when I'm concentrating on this thing?
I'm not a good multitasker. That's the problem. Like, I
Right.
can't sit and hang out with friends and watch TV and get work done.
Right.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Like, I have to close myself off in a room and focus on the one task, because otherwise I just sit there and stare at all the things.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same way. And I can't even work during the day. Like, I've had this conversation recently
I'm
with
most
people.
productive at night.
Yeah. I can't work during the day. There's too many things happening outside my window. I don't know. I when it's nighttime and the lights are out and I'm in my room at my computer, I can annihilate. I mean,
well, that's literally, the light is the center of my focus.
Right, get right
and
up on
so
that.
as long as the light is like focusing and like the laptop is blazing in front of me,
Right.
and everything else is dark,
Oh.
then yeah, it gives me a good sense of what I'm supposed to be focusing on.
Wow, what a beautiful little visual you've created. You're like literally like a little moth to flame.
I'm
Like,
a freaking vampire.
wait, were you in Vain?
I was the stunt coordinator for that. Yeah.
Okay,
I
I
built
was
the
going to
fights
try to tie
behind it.
something together there about you being an actual vampire. There's this really fantastic 360 experience short film made by a friend of yours.
Yeah, Maggie Levin.
By Maggie Levin. She's fantastic.
Maggie wrote and directed Vain, and it is this 360 experience where Candy Rave gets completely run over by a brood of vampires.
Right.
And it is the most fun because, like, Maggie's aesthetic is so neon purple, bright, happy, youthful.
Right.
And coupled with the gore of the blood and everything like that, she's just a beautiful combination of terrifying gore.
Right. One of our first times really connecting was at her Rocky Horror Hipster show.
Right.
Which is also kind of where I connected with Zen Zenith, which is what stemmed the birth of Dragon Wagon Radio, like this podcast network co-founded by Zen and I. I mean, we might owe a little bit to Maggie for just the events and the things that she does.
You guys are lucky for finding each other because I think you both are incredible people.
Oh.
But she's a connector like that.
Right.
She absolutely takes the time to find talent and brilliance everywhere she goes, and people find her as a result. And,
Right.
her friend group just continues to grow and amaze me.
So you were a stunt coordinator for Vane.
I was the fight director for it. So like I was trying to make sure I was looking out for everyone's safety, and that the thing about 360 that is really exciting is that you're shooting everything in one clean fluid take.
Right, of course.
And
because at any moment you have to be able to turn around and see what's going on.
Exactly.
You can't hide anything.
You can turn, as the viewer, you can turn the camera's point of view to focus on any other point of the room.
Right.
And so if there's a hit that's off, or if there's a throw that is less than convincing, you're going to be thrown out of the experience. So coordinating and choreographing that kind of a thing requires, I mean, I like that it pulled on my experience doing theater.
Right.
Because you have to shoot it as if it's in the round, like
Sure.
where everyone can see everything.
Right, yeah.
So maintaining people's safety in a rave environment where there's a lot of people was
Yeah, you know what? That's actually a really, I never really equated 360 to being theater, but that's kind of
that's what it
the
feels
most
like to
modern
me.
theater. Yeah, because, you know, there's only one direction. Even though it's 360 degrees,
Right.
the audience is still
It's
always
one focal
looking
point.
that way. Yeah,
Yep.
regardless. And it's all, like you said, it all has to be done in the moment right there because, I mean, now there are people that do 360 videos where they use, you know, cheats and they use cuts and stuff like that. But for the most part, it is all kind of done.
Getting it
right
in one
there in
fluid
one.
take is ideal. It's preferred. And like kudos to Maggie because we knocked that out in maybe 4 or 5 takes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, we rehearsed the mess out of that
Right,
leading
of
up
course,
to it.
You have to.
Mhm.
And is that available online anywhere yet? Because I know that she submit it someplace, which then created a first ever 360 category in a film festival, if I'm not mistaken.
That all sounds very familiar, but I don't know the full details
We're so
beyond
good. We're
that.
so good
We're
at
great
this.
friends.
We're so
great.
good at this. But in any case,
yeah, as far as I'm aware right now, it's on the festival circuit.
right.
And I get the impression that Maggie is less than impressed by the
Lack of 360.
lack of
Yeah.
360 festival resources that are out
I mean,
there.
I kind of get it because
Yeah,
when you
it's
go
a
to a
new
film
medium.
festival, like where do you see a 360 thing? So it's more about, I think, maybe including it digitally and including it via websites. Or like I'm trying to think of, because what is the experience that people are going to go to see it
well, it's
at a festival?
at a festival, you still have to go and find the room where they have the headsets.
Oh.
That's the only way that you can experience
So it's like
it.
VR.
So it's like VR.
Gotcha.
Yes.
So it's more than just like we're showing it and you can move stuff around. It's literally a VR
It's literally a VR experience.
Oh.
And
shit,
the
I mean,
difference between that and VR is that, like in VR, you have influence in your space. You can interact with the space that you're in.
Sure.
Whereas a 360 video, all you are is a witness.
So is Maggie's is VR then?
Maggie's 360.
Oh, Maggie's is 360.
You are just a witness in the
Gotcha.
mayhem. And she's done a phenomenal job. I am very impressed. She's currently moved on and she's written and is currently directing for Miss 2059.
Nice.
And I think today's her first day on set and she's
Nice.
elated.
Nice. Good for her. Yeah, hopefully one day she'll come and chat with me.
Yeah.
She should definitely be a feature guest.
I'm sure
So
all you gotta do is ask.
You did stunt coordinating on that. Have you done, because as far as I've known you, you've been a stunt person / actress.
Oh,
Is
that's
there
how
one
you know me.
Is there one that you lean into?
I am trained mostly and feel most proficient as an actor.
Really?
I got a BFA over a decade ago. And so like that's I came up in the theater
Right.
and I was very much an actor before I ever went to film and TV moving out
Interesting.
here. I was in New York for 5 years and so like that is the root of my experience.
Did you, were you always athletic at least?
So the tying into stunts. I was always athletic. I come
Right.
from a very athletic family.
Okay.
My cousin Keely used to train with Venus and Serena when they were kids.
Oh shit, really?
And yeah, we come from some power hitters and strong runners.
All right,
and,
no need to
and,
name drop on the show. No, I'm kidding.
and soccer players. We're good. We're
Right, nice.
talented at sports. We're lucky genetically. That's literally all it is.
Right.
So yeah, I'd always been really athletic. I grew up like an only child and I was the only girl in my group of cousins. So like doing guy things in general was always kind of,
Okay.
I played cricket and I played football. It was,
Wait, I'm sorry. Cricket?
yeah.
You got to know what a crumpet is to know cricket. No, wait, how did you start playing cricket? Where did you grow up?
I grew up overseas, mostly in the Caribbean, South America, and South Africa.
Well, shit. Okay, hang on a second. We're going to put a pause button in stunt work and we're going to hit the rewind.
Okay.
So where were you born?
I was born in DC, but I never lived there. We were in Jamaica within 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was that by design?
It was by design.
So you could be an American citizen?
Yes. Yeah, it was by design, so I could be an American citizen. My parents are also American, so that would have been guaranteed. But like that was
okay.
me being born in the U.S. was like nail in the coffin. I am absolutely American. You can't challenge or doubt it.
Right.
My little brother and little sister were born in Barbados, but because their father is still American, they are an honorary citizen as
Gotcha.
a result.
Is
But,
that
like,
is that not your father? Are they half siblings?
They are half siblings,
Gotcha.
but we have the same father,
Oh, same father, so different mother.
different moms.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I'm the oldest. There are 4 of us, and yeah, my dad works with State Department, so we moved every 2 years or so, and he
Wow.
worked with American embassies overseas.
So you moved
lot.
throughout your childhood?
all the way up until high school. Yeah.
So okay, so then when you went to high school, where was that?
Jake, there's so much here.
No, that's good. It's interesting because you know what? Last week, my guest was Kenny Cooper, who you met at a
Yeah.
photo shoot we did, and I found out similar thing about him, where he kind of didn't really have a home until high school, and then his whole thing was
That's
like,
a whole identity issue that I struggled with a long time.
really,
Yeah.
It's sort of like where do you call home?
Exactly
And
that.
do you have that answer yet?
We moved every 2 years. Here, I'll go down the list real quick.
Go for it. Hit me.
Okay. Moved out of DC, went to Jamaica after 2 weeks. We lived in Jamaica, Venezuela, LA for about 9 months. Barbados is when I left my mom and my dad didn't send me back home. So I stayed with my dad in Barbados before we went to Virginia for 9 months, where they put me in ESL because they couldn't understand my Caribbean accent.
Oh my goodness.
And then my dad got married to my stepmom, and we moved to Guyana, and we were there for another 2 years before we went to Lesotho, South Africa, in the Drakensberg
Where is
Mountains.
Guyana?
Guyana, South America.
Oh,
so,
okay.
To the west of Venezuela.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Wow. And then from there you went to South Africa.
Yes, in Lesotho. So it's not the South Africa, the country. It's that small landlocked country just below Swaziland.
Okay.
And that was for middle school for me. My stepmom is less than savory.
Oh,
and not
okay.
very sweet at all.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And so during that time is when I realized that boarding school was even a possibility.
Right.
And so I applied to boarding school. I didn't tell anybody and got in. And it was kind of
Wait,
like,
how did you do that on your own
I
without signatures and stuff? Don't you need print?
mean, getting there, I need the signatures, but getting in, not as much.
Oh.
Yeah. So I did the applications. I wrote the essays. I got in.
and so how old are you when you're doing this then?
12.
Wow, that is an incredible amount of maturity, wherewithal, and understanding.
I had the precedent that my dad had gone to boarding school when he was a kid too.
Oh,
He
okay.
went when he was 16.
And he probably
so
told
it
you
was
about
slightly different, but he had told me about it. And so like the dream of independence lived.
it. Wow.
If I went back, I would have liked to have lived at home longer.
Wait, let me see. Now you say home.
Well, okay, so up until college, home was where my dad was.
Right.
Because that was the one constant thing that I had in all the places that we lived was
Right.
where he was there with me.
So the place wasn't irrelevant. It was the person.
It was the person,
Gotcha.
which is a problem in and of itself.
You and your father have a great relationship? No, you don't. Oh, interesting.
No, we don't have a great relationship because he chose my stepmom supposedly for me.
For you.
Yes, because he
Interesting.
knew that I needed a mother figure. He knew that he was not home and available to be around to help take care of me.
Understood.
Each place that we lived, we had housekeepers and nannies that came and tried to make sure that I was there between school and getting at home and everything like that. But there was no consistency with it.
Okay.
I can't say that he picked her for me specifically. I'm sure he was all into her and
Oh, okay.
adored her too. So it
Sure.
wasn't just like a convenience thing for me per
No,
se.
no.
But he took the time to ask me before he married her. He was like, listen, if I got married to anyone else, who would you like it to be? Too open-ended of a question for a 7-year-old.
Right.
I was just kind of like, oh, okay, so anybody in the world. Okay, let's see. Ramon's mother, my little brother.
Right.
I was like, yeah, if it's her, then we can be a family and then
Right.
you guys can love each other. And that wasn't going to happen because she was the product of another situation that he didn't want to complicate his life with.
Sure.
And Esther was the logical choice.
Okay. That's your stepmother.
Yeah, that's my
Gotcha.
stepmom. She was absolutely the logical choice and I adored her. And
It's interesting though that like there was a need. Like you say it's a logical choice. Not marrying was also an option.
it was also
You
an
know,
option. My
like-
dad doesn't make those. He is a
Right.
traditionalist in many ways.
Gotcha. So he can't have kids without a mother.
Well, he
right.
can. He's proven
Well-
it.
Jeez Louise. Shots fired.
He can.
No, yeah.
It doesn't mean that it was his intent,
Right.
but it also doesn't mean that it wasn't anything beyond a blessing. I love my family.
Yeah, sure. I mean, It really is fascinating. Like it's incredible how much of a theme the non-traditional family is amongst performers that I meet in LA.
The idea of a traditional family is an anomaly.
Right?
That's not normal.
It really, and if it is, or for the people who it is, tend to probably, and now I'm going to be like, everybody who's listening who's like, wait, I love my mom and dad. They've been married for 50 years.
It boggles my mind.
I feel like it kind of creates a more interesting person, if I could say that. When it's kind of chaotic.
Visit adversity at an unexpected age.
Sure, yeah. So really, just to go back quick, because we blew right past it. Like
hard detours, I know.
No, it's great. I love it. You got into boarding school on your own at 12 years old, and the boarding school was where?
St. Mary's in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay, so did you do that from South Africa?
Mm-hmm. I had help.
Okay, who was your help?
My mom's sister, my aunt Leslie.
Gotcha.
She's based in North Carolina too, and so in trying to figure out where to go,
she was sort of your connection because dad
connect.
Maybe wasn't an option to assist you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's great that you had her.
Mm-hmm. She was fantastic. She was my legal guardian when I came to school.
Gotcha.
And so, like holidays, I would go and crash with her. She became auntie mom. She
That's
was.
Great. I mean,
helped raise her kids when they were born.
I've spoken on the show about my relationship with my Auntie Anna and how, I mean, like having a strong aunt is the world. It takes a village.
Saved my life.
And it's incredible.
It takes a village.
It's incredible how many people have an aunt or an uncle who stepped in times when either a parent couldn't, and how incredibly crucial those roles are, which is why I am so adamant on being as much part of my nephews and nieces' lives as possible.
And you're incredible.
Harder.
I see the way you're involved with their lives. And like every time I think it's amazing how you show love.
Yeah, it's harder. I feel bad at times because I have, other than my 3 that I see all the time here in Vegas, I have quite a few in New York, and it's harder because it's New York.
So far,
and it's so far away. So sometimes I feel like my brother's kids in Vegas get a little bit better treatment, which I feel bad about, but I do my best.
It shows.
Thanks. Your aunt helped you get into school in the States. So you then come back to the States with whose aid? With her aid as well?
Oh, when I got in, I asked my dad, like I still had to ask him permission to go.
Yeah.
And he said yes.
Right.
He wasn't thrilled by the idea, but he understands how I arrived at it.
Right. And also, like, is there any semblance of pride of like, oh, I did this thing and now she wants to do the thing that I did?
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. And he knew that like it was a prep school for going to any university that I wanted to. And so he encouraged that. It wasn't cheap.
Oh.
Still got a scholarship, but it wasn't cheap.
Right. Even with a scholarship, it wasn't cheap. Yeah.
And so like I tried to make sure that I seemed invaluable to them and got involved in all the sports and all the drama and all the prefect dorm SGA stuff that I could while I was there and be invaluable. But like my dad's the one that put me on the plane.
Right.
And my aunt picked me up, held on to me for about a week and a half, and then dropped me off in the dorms.
Wow. So that's where you went to high school then, and you were there for
4 years.
And you graduated there.
Yep, only black girl in the class of 67.
Wait, really?
It's a small school.
Small school in North Carolina.
Yeah.
I mean, did you face any problems being the only black girl in that school, or?
I did not face any problems, and if I did, I didn't know it.
Oh, okay.
And so I was lucky in that regard. I think the faculty did a really great job of shielding me.
Oh, interesting.
And the majority of the students come from old money.
Oh, gotcha.
Like it's in a wealthier part of Raleigh.
Gotcha.
There are girls that are like grandfathered in from prior generations.
Right. Like, your great grandfather came to this school. And
when
so
Robert E. Lee was here and brought his army to go and camp out on the front lawn of the school.
Holy
like,
shit.
That's the history that you have.
Right.
And here
and then
I
you
am.
show up. Yeah. Jeez.
Strolling through campus.
Just whistling.
Following the yellow brick road and shit.
Jeez. But that's incredible. So then you said that you tried to appeal to them as much as you could with sports and with theater. And so that means that you must have been interested in both of those things in at least middle school in South Africa.
Well, okay. So the thing about moving around as much as we did, and the thing that frustrated my dad to no end, is that like I would always pick up new interests.
Right.
Like there wasn't anything that I could stick to because the next place we would move to didn't necessarily have a teacher that could teach it to me.
Oh, and was that strictly based on the friends that you made along those ways? Like, were you influenced like, oh, I met this group of friends, this new place, and they like this thing, so now I like that thing?
Oh, probably. Yeah. So let me see. Barbados was the first time that swimming became a big thing because it's a small island.
Swimming. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's a small island. The beach is always a half hour away. Get me in the water, please. And
Right.
so that's when swimming and body surfing and light surfing became a thing for
I didn't
me.
even know that was a part of your repertoire.
It's not because I was
Oh.
5. But that's when it began.
Okay. Right.
If I choose to revisit it, I hope it comes back quickly.
Right. I get it.
And so that started there. My dad really wanted me to be like my cousin and play tennis. And so like that's when that started, and I was not having it, but
Uh-huh.
I tried.
Sure. Yeah.
Guyana, when we got to Guyana, I wanted to be more flexible, and so I started doing more gymnastics.
Okay.
But they didn't have a very good gymnastics school, so it was like my dad would say, like, just go in the corner and practice doing the splits. And I was like, I hate this.
Right. Yeah. Like it was like the
This isn't the fun thing that I see in the
No.
Olympics. This is what I want
Right.
to do.
right. Yeah.
And when I was in Guyana, I went to an American school, and like it says American school. Like most of the places that I went to had British educational systems.
Oh, okay.
What made it the American schools that the American kids went there because they didn't understand the conversion factor.
Wow. That's
And it
hilarious.
wasn't just the Americans; it was like all the international students who just like got a mangled education.
Wow. So when you say the American school, was it still a private school, or was it because of
It was still a private school, so local
Gotcha.
students couldn't attend unless they had a parent in.
right?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So it was because of your dad's job that you were able to kind of secure those things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then where did the theater start? Was that also from kids?
Okay. So theater. In 1996, my dad took me to Trinidad where they had carnival. They have carnival every year, and
Okay.
it's this wonderful fete. And everyone's walking down the streets. Everyone has these bright colored costumes with glitter painted on their faces and
Right.
music blaring in the background. And like they just go marching down the street. I was completely enamored.
Yeah.
And I'm also a hopeless pack rat. And so, like, as I'm following them down the streets and they're stripping off their clothes, I'm just like collecting shit behind them because no one's coming back to get it.
Oh my God. What a sad visual. There's like, who's this?
No, this absolutely elated child following behind these stripping dancers.
Right. Yeah. Collecting their clothes.
Collecting their clothes.
Right.
And my dad didn't understand it, but like those traveled with us across the ocean to Africa. I did not let them
Wow.
go because it's like they're perfect costumes. They're how
Right.
could you? They're gonna be useful for
Right.
something someday.
Right. Yeah.
And then when I got to South Africa and the school was doing a production of Alice in Wonderland, I heard on the grapevine that they were having a hard time finding costumes for the card soldiers.
Oh my God. This is amazing.
So rather than just give them costumes for the card soldiers, I struck a deal and I was like, okay, so listen. I heard that you need a really specific, unique look for these card soldiers, and I think I can give that to you. But you got to give me a part in your show.
So you learned like leverage in the entertainment industry
Real early on.
in South Africa.
Yeah, they like my chutzpah.
Wow. So what did you end up getting?
I got to be a card soldier,
Oh,
and I got to wear my own costume.
nice. That's amazing.
I was
Are there photos of this?
No, there aren't photos of this. I wish
Oh.
there were. I think I have photos of the actual costumes somewhere,
Right.
but like not of the actual production.
Well, I'm gonna have you send me those
Okay.
so I can post
if I
them.
can find, I mean,
if you can find
wish me well because I'm
Right.
digging through the garage.
them. Right. Fair enough. And as you just said, you're a pack rat. So
I'm working on it. I'm reading a KonMari book right now. I want to be better about it.
So that's where the bug hit, and then it never went away.
Yeah, I guess so.
So you ended up going to school in New York, you said.
So when I finished boarding school in North Carolina,
Yeah.
I got into NYU
Okay.
on an art degree, drawing and painting.
Okay.
And my dad flat out said, no, you're not going to NYU. New York's too expensive. And
Right.
on an art degree, that makes no sense.
Right.
So I stayed in state and went to UNC Greensboro, North Carolina.
Okay.
That's where I started an art program the first day, realized I hated it. And
Oh.
then also on the first day,
So maybe it was a good thing you ended up not going in. Yeah.
also on the first day in the cafeteria, heard that there were auditions happening for the fall plays. Happened to walk in on time. And
What does that mean?
because like
Is that a
on the
thing that you
first
didn't-
day of
right.
school, how are you supposed to know that there are auditions?
Right.
I didn't know what a contemporary monologue was.
Sure.
I had no idea. I walked in there, auditioned with King Claudius from Hamlet with a fucking flower in my hair. And then they booked me for the kids show.
Right. Yeah. Where'd the connection come from?
I have no idea. It was like I heard it in the cafeteria as I was getting a hot dog or some shit, and wound up.
So did you stay?
booking the
You stayed in
show.
that school then?
I did.
And did you just switch what you switch your majors?
I
Or you
switched my major. I got really lucky. I was initially art degree. Halfway into the first semester, was notified that I have to join Acting One if I had any desire to audition for the BFA program.
Right.
Halfway into the semester,
Wow.
I was lucky that Miller Lucky, my teacher, brought me into his Acting One class.
Wait, Miller Lucky?
Miller Lucky.
That's his name?
His name is Miller Lucky.
Professor Lucky?
Professor Lucky.
I mean, you kind of have to be lucky with it. You kind of have to.
My career is charmed by his luck.
Wow. That's fantastic. Shout out to Professor Lucky.
Yeah, thank you. He definitely got me on the map. Like, he brought me into his Acting One class. He coached me for my BFA audition. And then I got in and stayed with that BFA group until we graduated. We're the first in many, many years that graduated all together without anyone dropping out of the program. So
Wow.
proud of that.
That is it was because you guys were a tight-knit group?
We were a good group. Yeah.
Was there ever a time where anybody was like, I'm done with this? And you guys were like, no.
There were a couple instances of
Yeah.
it, and like we butt heads a couple of times. The group started with a couple and didn't end with that same couple, and so we
Right.
had to navigate around that. But for the most part, we took the work seriously.
Right.
Yeah.
Then where does New York come in?
After UNCG, I did outdoor drama in Ohio for 2 summers, my junior and senior year. And so that's where that's the nascent stages of my stunt training. That's where I did a lot of stage combat.
So it was stage combat is where
Yeah.
it started. Gotcha.
That's the root of it. Stage combat.
Right.
Transitioned into martial arts and learning just more about cool weapons-based techniques and stuff like that, which I can learn more of because I'm continually shamed by the people I admire.
Oh, I gotcha. So were you still doing anything athletic throughout that sort of time where you were concentrating on theater in college?
In college, no.
So you were kind of looking for the outlet.
Yeah, in college I wasn't as physical as I wanted to be. In college I put on my sophomore 20.
My sophomore, I don't think that's a thing.
The freshman 15 never happened. It just slapped me in the face my sophomore year, and it wound up being 5 pounds more than it should have been.
Fair enough.
Yeah, sophomore 20 hit, and then I just kept staying big until I graduated. And I just assumed that this was just me growing up.
Sure.
And so I wasn't. My brother was very physical. My brother was like training and getting his kinesiology degree, and like on the other side of campus. We went to the same school and never saw each other.
Wow, oh, really?
We live in the same town and still never saw each other.
Oh, geez.
But I didn't have a chance to be as active as I wanted to because rehearsal schedules didn't allow for the free time.
Right.
Yeah.
So then stage combat comes along, and you're probably all of a sudden scratching an itch you didn't realize you had from so long ago.
Right. And like in high school, I was doing track and cross country and tennis and basketball and swimming and whatever I could get my hands on.
Right.
And so like I was at least, I had the baseline to be a good athlete.
Sure.
The stage combat is where I learned how to incorporate choreography.
Right. And did it ever falter from that point, or has it been?
It has faltered.
Oh, it has since that point? So
it has.
It wasn't like you discovered that and you're like, oh.
It's an on again, off again thing for
right.
me. Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Well, I mean, not because I don't want to make it a consistent thing in my world, but sometimes it's a matter of money and opportunity and what I think me making it looks like.
Sure.
I never knew at that time that I could make a career out of continuing that path.
Right. And I don't think you had enough foresight either to, not to fucking mansplain to you your own problems.
Tell me.
But she goes, tell me, and smiles at me real condescendingly.
No, I want to know.
But I'm sure at this time too, there aren't people in action films that look like you.
There still aren't.
Fair point. Very fair point. I was trying to get at the fact that maybe there are more nowadays, but I guess it's not that much better than it was. I'm trying to. I am firmly trying to brand myself as a femme fatale and action heroine because I don't see any African American women who are really nailing that market. Really interesting. And the closest calls that I've seen so far are Naomi Harris from Pirates of the Caribbean and Tia Dalma and 28 Days Later. I've been tracking her for a while, and I think she's phenomenal. Also, because Rosario Dawson is starting to step up. Sure, she's doing a great job of leading the charge on that. And so like there are a few ladies out there that like are starting to spread their wings with that. Right. But I want to be
I want to be like the female Tom Cruise without jumping
Right.
on the couch and screaming at Oprah.
Sure, but and I guess what I was sort of getting at too was like as a stunt performer, more so than just an actress who does action. As a stunt performer, your job is to fill in for a person who you usually look like. Back at this point, I can't imagine that there's anybody that you could doppelgang for at that point.
You know
That's
something
doing
really
action.
cool?
What?
When I was doing outdoor drama the first summer, Sonequa Green was the girl that I was understudying for.
Okay.
And Sonequa Green later married to be Sonequa Martin, who wound up being on Walking Dead and who was our new Star Trek captain.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's fantastic. And so like a lot of the core people that I met at outdoor drama, there are some gems who have continued to inspire me throughout my whole career too. And
Nice.
so like I keep track of them. I talked to one of them. I talked to two of them in the past week actually.
So at some point, so then you did theater, and then I keep bringing it back to try to find out when the hell you got to New York, because I feel like that's where you met all your people.
Touche, you're right. Yes. Outdoor drama 2 summers, and then after the second summer, in 2007, and I finished Blue Jacket and then finished Sleepy Hollow. Then I moved to New York.
Gotcha.
On a whim.
Oh, so you didn't go to school in New York at all?
No, I just went out
You just
to
went
live
there
there.
and lived there. And is that where you met a lot of the people who you now know out here? For the most part, I mean, I know like it's always an amalgamation of people from all over, but
it's not where I met most of the people that I know out here. It's where I met the core group. It's where I met Helen.
That's what I meant. Yeah, your roommate Helen.
So it's not where
Highfield.
Helen Highfield, yes, who is phenomenal. She just finished shooting the lead in the second season of I Ship It, coming to the CW Seed. It is thrilling and a musical, and she crushes.
Yeah, she has got one of those voices.
Pipes.
Oh my God, I'll never forget the aforementioned
Rocky Horror
Hipster Show. I went and saw her.
She's our Janet.
The second she opened her mouth, I looked over at like everybody standing next to me, and I was like, oh, is this happening? Like, she has got just one of those freaking voices. It's insane. But it's funny too, because I associated with that group, and I know that they're all like music people. Like, for example, Zen Zenith, the co-founder of Dragon Ray Radio, who's a musician. He does the house show. Like, and I was just
Maggie's boyfriend Russell. He's on tour right now with Rafferty. He's a phenomenal bassist. Yeah.
And I just assumed that you were like, oh, she must also be in this musical group, but you're just like, nah,
not
my bag.
Moving around as much as we did, I started playing violin.
Right.
As soon as we got to the next spot, there wasn't anyone to teach it to me. So like I didn't have a chance to really get a good musical foundation.
Right.
And when I realized I was more naturally talented at physical things, that's what I put my energy towards.
But you gravitated towards those people
because they're dope.
Because they're dope. I like it.
Because they're awesome. Okay, so Helen's the first person that I met in the House Coven, and we were doing a production of Uncle Tom's Cabin together in New York.
Okay.
Which was a great show. I got honorable mentions in Variety and the New York Times.
Oh, congratulations. That's
Memorable
fancy.
New York performance along with Viola Davis and Liev Schreiber.
Wow.
I'm very proud of that.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you. I moved away from New York like literally the summer after that.
Yeah, that's great. Good. Might as well ride that wave to a completely different city.
A completely different city that has no idea what I'm about and doesn't even do theater.
Did you have a manager at that time?
I didn't.
Yeah,
no, they would have advised against it. Erotic. I'm glad that I moved to LA. Quality of life is significantly better than what it was in New York.
I'm sure of it.
I miss the people of New York, but good God gracious, LA is a dream.
Yeah, as a New Yorker, I can't help but get a little emotional when talking about living in New York because
love that town.
But yet I will say this, every single time I go home and visit, I hit that wall eventually where I'm just like, God, I can't wait to get back to Los Angeles.
New York is not made for old people. It's not made for parents. It's not made for the injured.
So in any case.
So Helen was my main contact to this whole Coven group. And when she moved.
Did you guys come out here together?
We didn't.
Question mark? Sort of?
We didn't. Basically, we finished Uncle Tom's Cabin. The next summer, she comes out and says, hey, I think I'm going to move to LA. And I was like, well, I can't move to LA. She was like, no, I think I'm telling you that I'm moving to LA. I was like, I know, I can't move to LA.
Right.
What do you mean you're going?
Yeah.
And so
it wasn't necessary. It was more of like no, that's not a thing we're doing.
That's not a thing we're doing. What the fuck? I like New York. We can't move to LA.
Yeah. That's funny.
And so I moved to LA like 2 months after she did.
That's great.
And it was a similar situation to her. I came out to visit. I have family out here. My whole dad's side of the family is out here. He's a boy out of Watts. And so he's a boy out of Watts and one of 11. And
Dad's one of 11.
My dad is 7 of 11.
There's another recurring theme in the show. Everybody's got giant families. Their
we
parents,
used to breed for farms. It's just not our way of life anymore.
Yeah,
That used to be the way of life. My grandma was a hoss.
What? I don't know if I've ever heard anybody describe their grandmother quite like that.
My grandma. I mean, she popped out 11 kids.
Yeah, that's no joke.
She's a beast.
Former guest of the show, Michael Bachman, he's one of 12.
Yeah.
And we did the math. His mother was pregnant for like 9 straight years of her life. Like, imagine being pregnant. So your grandmother must have been.
Imagine she was pregnant for the majority of her life.
Almost a decade of her life.
Yeah.
Straight. Goodness gracious.
And to hear my dad or any of my aunts and uncles describe her, like she was charmed, she was special. Yeah. She had an intuition that no one could quite understand.
Right.
She knew where all of her kids were at all times.
Center of the universe type.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. By the time that you got out here, was your relationship with your father any better or worse for where? Like, is it that sort of thing where it's like, all right, well, now we're in the same city now, so let's.
So when I moved out here, my dad was still on tour. So when I went to boarding school, my dad continued living in South Africa.
Okay.
He moved on to Kenya afterwards, and then moved on to Germany along with my brother and sister.
You've really seen the world.
Yeah, he's an incredible, most intelligent human being that I have ever met and probably ever will.
Interesting.
And he's a hard act to follow.
Right.
And like when I graduated magna cum laude with an arts degree, and he was like, well, you did better than me, but he got like a politics degree.
Right.
So like comparatively, it's completely different.
Sure.
But like he's here trying to hold me up.
Yeah, that's you, and that's also you being humble and you being the self-deprecating person you need to be to succeed in the industry that you've chosen. But it is a big deal. I mean,
still an arts degree. I appreciate that, but I know where I'm sitting right now.
I'm not going to say
it. So like, there are times when I wonder whether the problems that I have with my relationship with my dad would be solved if only I could get over my problems.
Oh, okay. So that's very self-aware of you to look at it like that. I mean, I've done a lot of therapy. If you can say
I've done so much therapy.
Yeah, if you could say that, then that's already a step in a fantastic direction.
I've done a lot of therapy, and it's not to say that my dad isn't blameless. Like, I don't think he made a very wise choice with my stepmother, and I don't think he did a very good job of protecting me in her wake.
Okay.
But I am no longer a child. Yeah. I am an adult. I have thought over the circumstances many times.
Right.
If I can't let that go, there's literally nothing that he can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so since you've got out here, has that helped you in any shape or form?
It has
have
helped.
A better relationship?
The problems that we have now stem to the fact that we, in conversation, when things get testy, we have very short fuse triggers.
Right.
And so we're navigating those triggers right now.
Right, yeah.
But lovingly so. Like we both see them coming.
Right.
And so when those triggers are going off, I'm kind of like, okay, so I can't talk to you right now.
Okay.
I love you.
Sure.
I'm going to go.
Right. And you know what, though? That's, in a way, that's almost, in my opinion, this is obviously completely subjective, that's better than just filing things as taboo and not talking about things
I do
at all.
too.
Like,
yeah.
I think it's healthier in any relationship
to call it out,
to be like, okay, this is a problem. Mm-hmm. Let's either step away from this problem, let's talk about this problem, or let's like as long as you're aware of it.
Yeah.
Because if you play that fun, naive, let's sweep
let's
under the
pretend
rug,
like nothing's wrong.
Yeah, that could be extremely unhealthy.
I'm not good at nothing's wrong.
Good, that's great.
I hope it is.
Sure.
I hope it is. I feel like I torture people sometimes when I'm like, I do, and I don't want to. I just like, if things can be better, I want them to be better. So let's talk it out.
Right.
And not everyone is willing to jump on board.
And not everybody's wired like us. But that is a very specific type of wiring. People don't like confrontation, especially people that maybe aren't as good at as introspection as, being self-aware.
Dude, I can't hide my feelings. You want to act like nothing's wrong. I'm going to sit across from you and be like, what up, dude?
Right. Yeah.
Let's get this out there.
And some people just are not good at that. And also I feel like that's something that is only going to get better generationally. That's also comes from again, keep in mind, your dad is one of 11 kids. And do you know where does he fall in that? Is he older?
He's 7.
He's number 7. So he's down the bottom.
And the thing is, like, he's number 7. He is among the most intellectually accomplished.
Okay.
And got the most education.
Sure.
And from what I understand, he assisted financially with the family for a long time from a very young age.
Gotcha.
And so like he has an odd sense of sibling parent relationship with the rest of his siblings.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you think he passed any of that on to your siblings? For you and each other?
In what respect? The drive,
or that like I took care of my siblings, you guys take care of each other.
Oh, no.
No, you don't think so?
Well, he wants to believe that for us. He
Right.
wants there to be more connectivity between
Right.
us. It's the things that make it harder
Mhm.
are that I, as the oldest, moved out at a young age.
Okay.
And my younger brother, closest in age to me, he's about 2 years younger.
Oh, you're that close?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought there was a bigger gap.
There is.
Oh.
There's another sibling. So yeah, the first sibling's 2 years apart. He grew up with his mother, and so we rarely had a chance to see each other.
Sure.
For Christmas and Thanksgiving, like he'd come out and we'd have a grand old time. One
Right.
time in Kenya, we went to Lamu Island, and like every time I got to see my little brother, it was a chance to like have fun
It
and
was
explore.
fun. Yeah. It wasn't estranged. It was just strange.
It was just strange.
Right. Yeah.
But we never were together long enough to really fight, so that's not something that we ever had to figure out.
Nice. Yeah.
Which is great, but it has its own downfall because you decide to live together later on and then you fight. Fight.
Right. Sure.
Lessons learned.
Yeah. Oh, it's that whole thing of like
love him so
we
much.
have you have so much family that you assume like, oh, this is my closest person because we're family. But then you live together. It's just like we were talking a little bit about relationships before earlier today.
It completely makes sense until it absolutely doesn't.
Exactly. I mean, my cousin PJ, who lives in Florida, I consider him like more like my brother than my cousin. My cousin's group was like that because we were closer in age than my
closest family
my
can
siblings.
be your friends.
Yeah, and like they were like my brothers, and nothing strained our relationship more than living with each other. You know what I mean? Like, and it's
absolutely,
just the way it is. Yeah.
I mean, it's type A too. Type A, stressed out and depressed at the time. It was a rough phase.
Right. Fair.
But then, so my dad tried to build the connectivity between he and I over the holidays.
Right.
But there's only so much you can do with that.
Sure.
And then when he married my stepmom and she had my other brother and sister, there's an 11-year difference between my next brother and then 14 years between me and my sister.
Right.
And by then I was already out of the house.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have a chance to interact with them very much. I also wasn't allowed to, according to my stepmom. So that was a whole other thing.
Interesting.
So my dad didn't have a chance to build that
What do you mean you weren't
unity.
allowed? Like, did she specifically sort of forbid it? Was it more of like it's not healthy for you? In what way did she have
it was
that power?
there was no consideration for what benefit there was for me.
Right.
It was her assuming that I would mean ill will to her children. So she was protecting them by making sure that I couldn't interact.
Wow. That's very manipulative.
It's,
very
I
controlling.
mean, I wasn't allowed, there was 2 refrigerators in the house. I was only allowed to eat out of one and all the food was stocked in the other. It was stupid shit.
Wow.
It was stupid shit.
So around the same time that you're starting to plant the seeds of boarding school and that sort of shit.
That's why that happened. Yeah.
Do you find, because I always talk about, and again, we can only associate things with our own lives. We can only, and I feel like around those years, for me as well, and it's not nearly as severe as yours by any means. I had a lovely home life. My mother did the best she could. But I, as every listener of the show now knows, I have massive daddy issues. And it was around
massive
those
daddy and mommy issues. We
Right.
haven't even gotten to my mom.
Yeah, I don't know. But in any case, so it was around those years though that like my dad came into my life for the first time.
Really?
And you started to see people in the family kind of change. Is it just that's the age that we start becoming more aware, or is it the specific things that happened in our lives that made us grow up a little bit quick during those years?
That's a fascinating question.
Because I think about my nieces, I feel like I was significantly more mature at the ages that they are. But that also just might be me not realizing what they know and how they
it also
feel
might have been
and
you
what they're
being
picking up.
forced to grow up a lot faster than was necessary for your age range.
And that's what I'm asking you, the same thing. Do you think that that's kind of like...
I absolutely think I grew up faster than I needed to.
Right, absolutely. Especially if you're, writing essays to get into a fucking boarding school at 12.
Yeah, no, I absolutely think I grew up too fast. Well, there's a too fast.
Right.
And also, my dad has 3 PhDs.
Right.
He was of the impression that if I could ask the question, then I was entitled to the answer, no matter how complex it might be.
Interesting.
And so
that's kind of honorable. There's something honorable in that.
It's an honorable, respectable thing to do, except that it means that whenever we have that conversation, he asks me questions, and I can't possibly have all the connectors to tie in what we just talked about.
Right.
And so, like, I'm feeling like a dunce talking to my own father, trying to make sure that I make some link to the things that I do understand.
Right.
And so, like, the whole notion of like living up to that was hard because of it.
Of course. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I do think that I grew up faster than, like, because your childhood is only so long.
Yeah, it's a blink.
It's a blink.
It's a blink. It's
I was always 5 going on 42.
It's the smallest part of our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's what you just said. Oh my God, I heard that. I used to hear that all the time when I was a kid.
Mhm.
People in my family used to tell me that I was 9 going on 30 or
Right.
9. Yeah, that was like an old trope that everybody used to say.
And I got that all
Yeah,
the time as
yeah.
well. And like there's a pride in that for me.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of like, yeah, I can hang with the
too.
grown-ups.
Exactly. But
Look
then
at me
also,
hosting cocktail parties at 7, opening my first bottle of wine at 8.
were you? Did it make you hang out with older kids more?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so my birthday's in December, so I was always the young one in class.
Right.
But I was always hanging out with the class above me.
Ditto. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always, even in the neighborhood, like I always liked hanging out with the kids that were a little bit older. I always
Yeah.
felt. And here's the thing: is I was probably still just an immature child to all of them.
Probably.
But I think it was about how I felt.
But
Like,
they let me be the immature child, not anyone else.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm their token immature child.
So I mean, you definitely. It seems like you've always sort of been uphill. You've always sort of kind of faced some sort of adversity in some way, shape, or form, whether it be literal, figurative, emotional, and you seem to be one of the most well-adjusted people that I know out in Los Angeles. You're
you.
not pessimistic, yet you're realistic. There's a difference.
I'm pragmatic as fuck.
Oh yeah, actually, man, positivity without realism could be very dangerous.
It's a very dangerous place to be, yeah.
But I feel like you're always, for the old trope, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. You're always
Rainbows and sunshine,
yeah,
day and
you're
night,
always
son.
rainbows and sunshine, but simultaneously you're not delusional, and it's so hard to find that in LA because usually people are either like, everything is great, we're all gonna make it, and everybody's gonna be happy, and blah blah blah.
Everyone can lie to themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyone can lie to themselves.
But so you seem to be really well adjusted, yet it definitely didn't seem to be easier for you. You have fantastic composure. You mentioned before that you've done some therapy. Maybe that's part of it. I always find people
On and off for years.
Man, people that do therapy, they just don't know how to handle their shit so much better. I really highly suggest it. If you don't think you need therapy,
We don't teach mental health in schools.
We don't.
We have, and the only people who learn it are the people who seek it out for themselves. And the only
Exactly.
place that you can do that right now is therapy.
Yeah, and I think that's why I think people are really gravitating towards podcasts nowadays.
Yes.
Because people are hearing stories about other people that they're not seeing in
intimate
television
way.
or in movies, and exactly, and they're finding things to associate with. They're finding things to sympathize and empathize with.
Yeah.
I really hope that we are, as a world, gravitating more towards a conversational existence.
And I like what you said also generationally. I think that as the younger generations come up, they will learn to be more social. Hopefully they're not going to get trapped in their text mode of communication.
Yeah, that's
and
the
learn
dangerous
how to
part,
express
is
themselves more.
I feel like there's an extreme happening, which is unfortunate. I feel like because we're in the age of connectivity, we're in the age of technology, in the thick of it, people are either getting incredibly incapable of communicating,
yeah,
because person-to-person communication
isn't
horrifies
necessary
people.
anymore.
Look at like people. I mean, anybody out there who's in their 30s trying to date right now, I don't need to tell you
It's a rough life.
how hard it is just to have a conversation with a person. In
to
a
just
text,
graduate past online dating,
exactly,
and meet
or
in person
texting,
is,
or
yeah.
So yeah, I think the age of communication is making people incapable of communicating, yet simultaneously, it's making things like podcasts and our conversation with each other today more accessible. It's making art more accessible. People are finding things that are more, dare I say it, just deeper in existence.
They're tapping into educational topics that they never would have
Exactly.
approached independently.
And they're also learning about the value of conversation, the value
Yeah.
of sharing, and now I sound like a real hippie.
There's a vulnerable aspect of being able to share things about yourself with anyone else.
Absolutely.
And so being able to not only share a part of yourself, but to do it cogently and feel as though you're expressing yourself with any degree of genuine authenticity
Right. Yeah.
that takes practice.
Sure. Do you find it hard to maintain your mentality out here?
Yeah.
Like falling into cynicism?
Falling into cynicism is something that I do periodically. I mean, one of my dad's favorite lines is first you're born and then you die.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
It's what you do between times that, makes a life, but it's your choice how you do it. I'm not often a cynic.
No.
I try to maintain optimism.
Right.
But it's the pragmatism that keeps me grounded about all of it, because I acknowledge that I am very lucky in this industry.
Okay.
If I had been a white guy pursuing the exact same things that I'm doing, I don't think that I would have worked as much.
Oh, really?
I think that because we are living in the day and age of Trump, and I think in the day and age of Oscars So White, and Black Lives
Okay,
Matter.
no, you're right.
That
Yeah.
Hollywood it's a good time to be Black in Hollywood.
Right.
Oh my gosh, this was fun. Okay, so I don't like working out. I don't like feeling like a hamster on a treadmill. I don't like the mindless minutia of it, but I love learning new things.
Okay.
And so I started taking Muay Thai, and it was literally me showing up to class and them telling me, okay, punch this, punch it.
Right.
Okay, punch it twice. And so like just getting the repetition of being told what to do and doing it, and then seeing a physical result in myself as a result, in the process, it was really great. And so when I got lean enough and felt skilled and proficient enough doing Muay Thai is when I met Nico. Nico hired me to be a fairy in a short video that he did for Project Greenlight, for a kid's birthday party.
Oh, wow.
And while I was on set entertaining all the kids, making balloon animals and painting faces and stuff, I happened to mention that I was doing Muay Thai, and like in the fairy suit, he could see my arms and like I can't hide them.
Yeah.
And Nico just seemed so fascinated by the fact that I did Muay Thai, and I was kind of like, I was training to compete for a fight at one point.
Okay.
The fight never happened.
Okay.
Bricks and the Bitch was my fight because my agent basically said that I couldn't hurt the moneymaker.
No, that's smart.
It's smart.
Yeah, that's very smart.
It might still happen eventually.
Oh, you
we'll
think so?
I'd like to.
So that's something that's in the back of your head every now and then. It's like,
I'd like to.
Really?
Because there is a beautiful chess match that happens on your feet when you do that kind of thing.
No, I get it. So I for an extremely brief period of my life, boxing was a thing that I was really into. And it only took one good shot to the face for me to be like, nope, done.
No, I can take a hit. I don't mind that.
And the only time that I got in there and I really went with somebody, we both had the exact same outcome. It was both of our first legit, very light sparry kind of thing.
Okay.
And I think I cracked his rib.
Oh shit!
And he hit me so hard in the nose that it's not straight no more. And we literally both came out of that like. Yeah, we both came out of that like, what's fun? Comics. Or whatever it was.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's honestly, but it was good because I questioned it, and and it's the whole thing of like, I urge you if it is something that you're kind of thinking about to go do it.
Yeah.
But also simultaneously be realistic that
it's a hazardous thing to go to. Like shoot, man, I hurt myself a year ago. I had to go through a whole surgery about it.
Right.
Like it was a slow. I thought that all the progress that I made towards stunts was suddenly just negated for the injury that I went through, and nope, just had to rehab it and get back in the game. And now that I'm back in it, it's like,
yeah,
I think I could do it.
Hey, that's great. I mean, again, at the end of the day, something that we've touted on this show quite a few times is that if it interests you,
you should do it.
You should try it. It's going to help against depression. It's going to help against the monotony of rejection that comes with.
It gets your brain firing.
Exactly.
And curious. And
it's like you said, you love learning new things. Like that's how to do it.
Yeah. And so like that was the breakaway for me. And I was training for a fight. Nico was like, well, if you're going to be fight weight, let's just go ahead and get that on screen.
Nice.
And he brought me in to do Bricks and the Bitch.
Right. Yeah. Bricks and the Bitch is such a fantastic short film.
It's my baby.
You and Dre Swan is her name,
Dre
right?
Swain.
Dre Swain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry. I
It's
apologize,
all right.
Dre. We've never met. I just know you from the internet.
You haven't met Dre? She is so cool.
That is it's a gorgeous little short film. I don't know if it's available online yet, is it?
I think it is.
If it is, go watch it.
If you go to my Instagram at Alex Marshall-Brown or a lexicon, you will find a link that goes to the Vimeo for Bricks and the Bitch. And then that was around the same time that I shot New Girl too. And so New Girl is probably the more direct connection to me formally breaking into stunts.
Gotcha. What did you do on New Girl?
I was a guest star on Bangsgiving, the episode where all of the roommates brought each other a blind date for Thanksgiving.
Gotcha.
Winston brought me for Coach.
Gotcha.
Coach was very intimidated by the fact that I was clearly stronger than him.
Gotcha.
And the guy that came in and did the stunt on the show. So Damon Wayans approaches me, taps me on the shoulder from behind and startles me, and I'm a police cadet.
Right, yeah.
And so when I get startled, I basically grab his wrist and throw him over my shoulder, and he lands in front of me.
Yeah.
So the guy who did that stunt, I was like, you do stunts?
Right.
I fangirled the fuck out of him. I was like, tell me everything, Clay. Clay, tell me, how do you do this? Can I do this? Let me show you this film that I just did with Nico Reno. It's a fight film called Bricks and the Bitch. I love it so much.
Nice.
And so, yeah, I fangirled him and didn't hear crickets. I heard nothing from him for about a good 5-6 months.
Okay.
I figured, I was like, well, that little roses and sunshine moment that I gave him was for naught. He called me about 6 months later and said, hey, so you seem to have the right mindset and the right attitude to be in this industry, and we got a gig for you if you want to do it. I was like,
Nice.
I don't know. What do you need from me? We just need you to fall and, get shot in the head for Hateful Eight. I was like,
nice.
yeah, I can do that.
Nice.
And so like my first professional stunt was a feature film with Quentin Tarantino.
That's fantastic.
I'm lucky.
Yeah.
I'm hustling hard.
But again, that's the thing. And I was about to say, you're hustling. Like that's, there are some people, we were talking about this earlier as well. There's some people that we know, even our friends. And if you don't think you think this way, you're lying to yourself. Huh. Even when some of our friends succeed, we go, God damn it.
Yeah.
Do you know, like even some people that you love, and if you think that you don't think that way, you're lying to yourself. And you need
Look at him succeeding. Fuck.
Do you know what I mean? And it's true. You can't help it.
But like it's a dual thing. Yeah. We hate it when they succeed, but like you lift them up in the process because
of course.
There's that one chance that they're building their own Judd Apatow group.
Of course.
And you want to ride that wave.
Well, what I was exactly. And what I was getting at was there are some people that you just can't help but be absolutely thrilled about success, and you are in that group, my dear. Anytime I see that you're doing something good, I'm always like, great, she deserves it. I've never been on a set with you where you haven't been in a great mood, where you haven't brought everybody else up to a great mood.
Thank you.
You are always just as professional as you are fun. I see you hustling your ass off. I see you posting not so much since April. Not lately, but I used to see you posting freaking workout videos that made me just feel like a shithead. You are super inspiring. You are super fantastic. I am so happy to know you. How do people find you on the internet?
On the interwebs, you can find me on Instagram, if only I posted something else anytime soon, on Alexicon or Alex Marshall-Brown.
Alexicon? Spell that.
ALEXACON.
Gotcha.
And you can also find me on Twitter, Marshall-Brown, AMARSHALLBROWN, and on Facebook at Alex Marshall-Brown.
We didn't even get into in this conversation about kind of your the social issues that you champion and sort of the activism and all the fun stuff. There's plenty of time because hopefully you'll come back and chat with me more.
I'd love to come back and talk more about it. Yeah,
because we have cracked the surface. I've noticed. So I've been doing the show now for what episode is this? 14, 15, really? 16? I don't know. We've been going for a while.
We're in the teens. We're adolescents, man. This is fantastic.
Yeah. I've been doing the show for a while, and there's something I've noticed about these episodes. And listeners, if you have opinions on this, please, I'd love to hear from you. I have noticed that for some of these conversations with people like you who I know, but there's a lot that I don't know about, I felt like a lot of these have been like first dates. Do you know, where I get to learn about their backgrounds, you know? I learned about people's backgrounds, a little about where they're from. We've spoken a lot about people's parents in these episodes. And I feel like that's just going to be sort of the nature of the beast for first-time guests, because I feel like it's so important at shaping who we are as people. Yeah. And then as I have people on a second, a third, a fourth time, we can dive more into living life, you know, and the day to day.
Yeah.
And sort of unpacking shit as far as why we do the things we do.
Yeah.
So I hope you come back. I have to tout this one last time, if you let me. This Saturday, 7 p.m. at the Belmore Movies. If you're listening from Long Island, New York, the tri-state area, my independent feature film is having its East Coast premiere at the Long Island International Film Expo. It is a small little fun theater. Should be a great time. I made this movie entirely on my own for over 2 years. No budget, literally no crew. This is an indie by every definition of the term. I am extremely proud of it, even with its flaws. I hope anybody can make it out if you're in the area. I'm sure it won't be the only opportunity, of course. Hopefully we'll be getting into some festivals nationwide, and hopefully before you know it, we'll be on a streaming service of some sort. In any case, the film is called Pinch. Once again, Long Island International Film Expo, Saturday, July 15th at 7 p.m. at the Belmore Movies. If you go to the Long Island International Film Expo's website, all the tickets are available there. We'd love to see you. If you are listening to this and you do come out, please say hi and tell me that the reason you came was because of this podcast. I don't even know if you're listening. As always, find me on Twitter at LiquidJake and follow It's Dragon Wagon on all social media. Also, I finally did it. Literally, I did it this morning. I made Elaborate its own social media. I struggled with this for a while. Should I? Is it worth it? Because I'm already on there as myself and the show is this and blah, blah, blah. the truth is another show popped up called Elaborate. And I was like, you know what? I better
Claim it.
claim these.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be transparent. That's
Smart.
That's the reason behind it. But that doesn't mean you can't follow it, right? So with that said, the new social media for Elaborate is at @ElaboratePod. It was our hashtag. I've always told people to use the hashtag #ElaboratePod when discussing the show or tagging the show. Now you can just tag the show itself at @ElaboratePod on both Instagram and Twitter. Thank you so much for listening. I hope everybody out there is being nice to each other. Thank you again so much for coming and sitting with me. I love you, Alex.
Thank you, Jake. I love you too, man.
Hey, everybody. I'm sitting down with somebody who you're very familiar with already, Paul Bianchi.
Yes, I'm sitting down with you, Jake Lloyd.
This is true. We are both currently sitting down. I want you to tell us a little bit about your love for Greek mythology.
Oh my gosh. This is a lifelong love that began when my dad opened up Dolores' book of Greek mythology and started reading me stories before bedtime, and it just grew from there.
You utilize it a lot as a writer as well, don't you?
A lot of writers.
Right.
It's Hollywood is overrun with allegories about Greek mythology, and I think that when you become really familiar with it, you see it even in places you didn't even expect to see it.
And shit gets weird in Greek mythology.
Oh, super weird. Yeah, there's a lot of incest and there's a lot of murder and cutting of genitals. You know, it's a party.
And it's a party that you talk about on a podcast, on this very podcast network. Segue
to Myth Understood, my podcast, where I talk to my good friend Sarah Oliver about Greek mythology, and she tries to learn. Just bless her heart.
How do they check it out?
Well, they can check it out on Stitcher and iTunes, and they can go directly to the webpage, mythunderstoodpodcast.com.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Jake.
It's misunderstood.
It's Dragon Wagon.